Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cypher Guide series. I know last time I promised to do Pearl, but I instead wanted to do Haven today. I'll try to do Pearl next up. But in terms of how strong Cypher is on Haven, it's around a middle ground for him, so he's still really good here at the end of the day. But there's a lot of one-ways and setups that I'm going to show in this video. But what this video is actually going to go into is first round buys, defense setups on A, B, garage, as well as C. And is going to go into depth on how you actually should attack on all the different areas of this map. But without further ado, let's get right into it. For first round buys on attack, I recommend the same buy no matter where you go, being a cage, a tripwire, and either a ghost or a frenzy. It's up to you, whatever you want to go with. But on defense, it's actually a lot different. It really depends on what site you want to guard. So if you want to guard B or C, I recommend doing the same buy I said from attack, being a frenzy or a ghost with a tripwire and a cage. But when you watch garage, I actually recommend a pretty unique buy here. I recommend you actually buy a shorty with all of your util and make sure you get a classic at the side. And the way this works is you have two info trips on other sites as well as you watching garage with a shorty, which basically is almost a guaranteed kill if someone pushes into garage into you. And you have your cages to back you up in case you need them. But as for A, I recommend a classic only with all of your util, since 2 trips and 2 cages in the first round on A site can rack you up easy kills right away and be really unexpected from the enemies in general. Beginning with a one-way to start off a little bit spicy. For the cam, you want to go into this corner right here in heaven and aim your camera up here. And when you get it down, it's a good camera to see into long as well as sewers when they're pushing up. But once you do that, for the actual one-way, this one isn't really like a setup. It's really easy to do. You don't have to stand in a specific spot or anything. But once you get it right, it should look something like this. And then for the other one, you also don't have a specific spot to stand, but it's just kind of easy to set up. You just aim at something like that and throw. And then you want to place a trip with it as well. And since you have one spare trip, I normally recommend just leaving a simple trip like this, so you know when they're actually pushing sewers. And then the way you play this, you actually go up to heaven for this. And when you notice they push up, or they hit your trip or break your trip in long, you activate the cages.
Cage triggered.
And you have an amazing one-way for long. So this setup is basically a bonus to the last one I showed, as it's basically just a replacement of the last one-way. But the only difference is if you don't want to use 2 cages and you want to use 1, this is how you do so. So if you see the corner of this wood right here, you run into that. And once you get it, there's like a little line right here. You want to go inside of it a little bit and get close to the top, like around that, and throw. And when you get it right, it should land up there. So the way this looks is when they're pushing up long, you have a really nice one-way for long to get you easy kills in a different manner. Since I've been showcasing a lot of one-ways in A side already, why not keep that going? So the cam you place is the same one I showed as before, which is right here. And this is actually a one-way for sewers. But before that, you want to place a trip right here just so you have something watching long, and throw a cage on top of it just in case, so your team can get the pick if someone hits that trip. But for the one-way itself, there's this little line in between the crates right here. You want to run into that. This setup is very lenient, by the way. But there's this little like line right there. You want to go at the end of it and throw. And then when the round starts, you want to grab a tripwire and throw it into this corner right here. It's basically impossible for the enemies to break this trip. So it's very helpful for this one-way. But when they actually hit the trip, you want to activate this cage, and then you have a really nice one-way for sewers. And if they happen to push long, you can activate this cage and kill the person who hits this trip. As you can see, there's a lot of one-ways on Haven with Cypher, but you want to have some tripwire setups as well, so here's one of them. For the camera, you want to jump up onto this box here from heaven, and once you get over here, you throw your cam like that, and you have a really nice cam that can see all of sight, and it's pretty hard for the enemies to see. The only way they'll really know this is here is if you open up the cam and they hear the sound. But this is perfect for the setup that you're going to do now. So the first trip you want to place, you can actually place a trip on all of these right here. The one you want to place it on is the second one right here. And you have a nice trip to watch long, or if they push back sight. The way this works is you want to throw a cage right there as well. And then the second trip you want to place it something like this. And then throw a cage on top of it as well. You want to play this on site, and when you notice they're actually pushing up close to your trips, activate the cages and kill anyone who hits your trips. But the nice thing about this is if your cages are still up, you actually have the option of just leaving like this. So you can play for retake as well. The last setup I know on Haven A site is more of like what I usually do in the first round. So the cam you want to do goes back to the initial cam right here. And once you get that, you want to throw a trip like this right here so that it's only breakable from this side right here. And the trip you want to pair that up with is right here for when they push sewers or site itself. The cage you want to throw with them is right here on this line. And then usually it's my first round, so I'll just have a classic. But there's actually one more cage I always throw, and it's around on this one right here. So once you get everything down, the way this setup works is when you notice they're pushing sewers, getting closer to your trips, or long, getting close to trips, you activate this cage right here and kill anyone who hits either of your trips. But the good thing about this, the reason I placed this cage right here is if you want to leave at any moment, you can just activate this cage, and it's a really easy escape route to just play retake after. For B-side, I never really recommend just only watching B-side as Cypher, but if you really want to, here's one setup you can do. So the first trip, you want to place it at the corner of this wood right here, and you get a trip like that. The second trip you want to place is a trip like this right there. And once you get these two, you just throw cages on top of them, and you're gonna play with a cam up here. So you can see when they're pushing a B site. But then the way this works is when you notice they're pushing up close to your trips, you activate your cage and kill anyone who hits those trips. So this second setup is actually how I recommend you watch B site. So you want to start off by doing the same cam I showed before, right there. And then you want to place a trip against this box like right here. And once you get it, you'll get a trip like that that's only breakable from one side. And then you want to throw a cage right here. For the second part, you actually are going to be watching garage as well with this setup. And it's actually a one-way. So the way this works, you just want to throw it something like that. It's very lenient. It barely messes up. There's a bit of a bug with it, but outside of that, it's not really a problem. But then you want to place a trip that tells you when to activate it like this. Very close to the door. You have to place it when the round starts. But once you get that all down, you're going to be playing right here, like in between them both. If you notice they're pushing up B side first, you activate this cage and kill the person who hits your trip. It's a pretty unexpected trip as well, so it'll probably get you one kill. But if you notice they're pushing garage or break your trip or anything like that, you activate this cage and you have a really nice one-way for garage. Like I said before, Haven is like a one-way city for Cypher, and Seaside also has a one-way as well. But before I get to that, I'm going to show you guys the camera I always do for this site. You want to jump up to this crate right here, and then aim around here and just jump through. And once you get it right, you'll have a cam like this that can see when they all the way into the entrance of C long, as well as into garage and even CT, which is very good, very strong cam for early info, and it's very good for the one way you're going to be doing. So for the one way itself, you're going to get into this corner before the round starts and just throw it into this like corner right here. Very easy to do. You'll get it very fast. And you want to pair that up with the trip right here. This trip is not even breakable from either side. They cannot even see it without hitting it, which is very good for your one way. And just for info purposes, I normally just throw a simple trip like this in garage, just so I know when they're actually pushing garage as well. But the way you play this is you want to play this back here. And when you notice they're getting close to your trip or about to activate your trip, you activate this cage.
Triggered.
And you have a great one way for C long. Moving over to legitimate tripwire setups now. All of the setups, by the way, are going to use the same cam every time, because this cam is just that strong. But the tripwires themselves, you want to place a trip right here into this corner, and you'll get a curved one like this. And then for the second one, you want to place it against the little curve right here, and you'll get a trip like that. And then you want to throw just a cage on top and a cage up here. You're going to be playing in the same spot as before, but when you see them getting close to your trip, you activate the cages, and you have either two options. You can jump up here and kill them like this, or you can just kill them right here. Either works, and they won't know where you're shooting from, as long as you're using a phantom, which is very helpful for some easy picks. The last and final defense setup I know on all of Haven goes back to the same cam. It's already placed. But this one actually is one of my favorite ones to do. So the way you do this is you can put a trip on the corner like this, on the corner of the crate like that. Sometimes it doesn't place, but you'll eventually get it, and you'll get a trip like this. The second trip you want to place is something like this, and it watches basically the plant spots and if they push back sight. You want to throw a cage right here, but this is actually just going to be a decoy one. Where you're actually going to be playing is logs. So you want to go over here, jump up, and throw a cage on this little like circle right here. And once you get it, you'll have the all set up. But the way this works is when you notice them pushing up, you activate both the cages, peek from here, and if they hit any of your trips, you just get easy kills on them. And then if you want, before the cages fall, you can even back up as well. This is more like a bonus. I actually never use this one way, but it might help out some of you guys. So you go into this corner for this one way, and then if you see these little like pipe, this little pipe, you go on this one, under it a little bit, and throw. And then you'll get a cage up here. So the way this looks is when you activate the cage, you have a really nice one-way for garage, but I personally don't use it because I feel like it has a lot of flaws in it. But if you guys can find the use for it, go for it.
Cage triggered.
When attacking A site, there's actually two kind of flank trips you can place. So I'm going to show you them both now. So the first trip is you can just place something like this. There's no way they can get over it, but like jet updraft and other things can get past it. But if you want to trip closer up, that's harder to break, basically impossible to break, you can place a trip, something like that. And it's not possible for them to jump over it, by the way, just so you guys can see. Because they'll hit the top like that. But once you actually get your flank trip down, I usually recommend when the round starts, just throw a cage like that.
Cage triggered.
So that you can cross down in the sewer or peek from the cage and get like, help your team get an advantage right off the bat. But if you don't have smokes, which I sometimes don't, I actually usually place a cam like this, which can see into heaven right away and get you info on what you're going to be peeking into. But outside of that, there's nothing more you can really do. Everything else is just up to your teammates to help you push up, you know, check corners, stuff like that. You can maybe throw a cage when you're pushing up, something like this, just so you don't have to clear as many corners, you know. But once you actually get control of sight, the trip I recommend you place for post plant is this. Very strong post plant trip. Gives you info on when they're pushing up, so you can just focus on one angle while the trip is giving you info on the other. So when attacking B site, when you actually cannot place one flank trip to actually watch flank, you actually have to place two. So for the first one, when the round starts, you want to place a trip, something like that, to watch the front of A. Not really breakable, so that's nice. But for C, you also have to place a trip in front of C. Like this. But when actually like pushing B itself, when the round, like try to do this when the round starts or as quick as you can. You want to throw a cam, something like that. It gives you info on what you're peeking into, so you know what you're getting into right away. But when you actually start pushing up, I usually recommend throwing a cage, something like that. Just so you're peeking into one angle and can't get double peeked from two different angles, making it really hard for your team to push. This cage just helps out for that. So for pushing C site, there's only one flank trip you're ever going to need. There's going to be more you can place, but trust me, this is the best one and the only one you're going to need. So you're just going to place a trip like this, and things such as jet, updraft, ray satchel, there's no way to get past this for them, so they're going to have to break it, which is very useful for you. But when the round actually starts, there's a lot of things that can make pushing C pretty tough, so I recommend just throwing a cam right away, just so you can see if an op's peeking you or chamber op, anything like that's good at long range, you'll know if it's there right away. But when you actually start pushing up, I recommend just throwing a cage right there, so you don't have to watch that angle and you can just clear angles without having to watch that one at all. And when you actually get the sight, the post plant trip I recommend is just a trip like that with a cage on top. If you have time, you can actually do a one-way for it. You can just get in this corner, throw the cage, and do a one-way for it. But you can just keep it simple like this. When they push up, activate the cage, tell the person who hits your trip, and keep playing post plant. Thank you everyone for watching the video. I just want to thank everyone for all the support I've been getting on my videos lately. It's been motivating me to keep making more YouTube videos and trying to help out new Cypher mains and stuff like that. Trying to improve the Cypher meta in any way I can. But thank you everyone again. It means a lot to me. And I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.